Yes! Yes! We're back! It is Tuesday, March the 26th, 2024, 7:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name's Dave McRae, coming to you live from the Voice Man Studios in Toronto, Canada. It is episode 249 of McRae Live. Bob, do it again! We're doing it again. We're doing it again. 35 years ago this year, Halloween 5, the return of Michael Myers, the revenge of Michael Myers. The revenge of Michael Myers, which was not actually in the movie. Do it again! Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers celebrates 35 years ago this year. It was released in 1989. Where were you? Were you born? Maybe you weren't. Maybe you were non-existent. Halloween 5. We got to talk about it. We got to celebrate it. 35 years. Okay, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 249 of McRae Live. My name is Dave McRae, and 35 years ago this year, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers was released. One of the greatest cinematic achievements in in motion picture history. Look, listen. If you are a Halloween 5 fan, if you love that movie, maybe it's one of your favorites in the franchise. Maybe it's one of your favorites in the series. You are welcome here on this channel. You are welcome here on the stream. However, if you have followed me for any length of time, you know that I've not made it a secret. My thoughts on Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And, but it's 35 years and we need to celebrate the good, the bad, and the ugly here on the channel. And that's what we're going to do. Now, just know that when I say I think Halloween 5 is a piece of crap, it does not mean that I think you are a piece of crap. Okay? Those are two complete, maybe you are a piece of crap. I don't know. But that's not what I mean when I say that. Okay? It's not what I mean. But there are many people that have a difficult time disassociating, themselves from people who say, I don't like that movie, from, people saying that I don't like you. I've never said that. On this channel, I've never said that people who like Halloween 5 are just as crappy as the movie. I've never said that. So if you like part 5, that's great. I think that's amazing. I sincerely mean that. I think that's awesome. I, of course, do not. But that does not mean that when I was a little boy of 10 or, maybe 10, 11 years old, depending on when the movie came out on VHS, I did pick it up on VHS. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers on VHS. And I am so thankful that they finally got the mask right on this cover because, Halloween 4, look at that. And these are originals. These are originals, baby. I'm old enough to have the originals. There it is. Look at that. CBS Fox on the side. That's how you know it's one of the originals. And of course, there's the back. Maybe you have the original of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. It's in pretty good shape, if I do say so myself. And then, of course, yes, Halloween 5, we're celebrating. That was last year. 35 years last year. 35 years this year, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, CBS Fox. There it is. What does it say? I don't have my glasses, so we're going to have to, oh, damn it. I need more light in here. I can't read that. But nonetheless, not without my glasses, but nonetheless, there it is. VHS, horror. So this was a rental. This was a box that was on the rental shelf of probably a mom and pop video store. And because it has a little horror sticker there, meaning it belongs in the horror section. And there it is. I love at the top here. I love where it says, Michael Myers is finally unmasked. He's finally unmasked. Finally. They forgot that in the original Halloween from 1978, he was unmasked at the end of that movie. It was Tony Moran's claim to, it is his claim to fame. It's the highlight. It's his 15 seconds. I don't even think it's 15 seconds. 5 seconds, maybe? It may not even be that. It might be 3.8 seconds of fame. You see more of Tony Moran. You see all of Tony Moran's face in Halloween 5. In the original Halloween, you get a real good idea of what Michael Myers looks like at the end of that movie, way more than you get at the end of this movie. But they need to tell you he's finally unmasked. Oh my God, if I wasn't going to rent it before, I'm going to rent it now. Yeah. And then, of course, it ends up being dog shit because really at the end what happens is, Uncle, see? Can I see? She doesn't say, can I see? She goes, Uncle, see? And he's like, oh, well, okay. Okay. And he takes off the mask. Kind of sounds like he's unzipping it. He takes it off and there it is. And you see the tear streaming down his face. It's a tear and his eyes are perfectly fine, even though they were shot out in Halloween 2 and he's got no burns anywhere because this is canonically connected to the... Anyway, it is what it is. And it was quite frankly, very disappointing to my 10-year-old self. I was 10 years old in 1989. And I remember watching this movie on VHS from the video store. And people are like, hey, Dave's had coffee today. Nope. Nothing. I don't drink coffee. Haven't had any booze. This is just high on life, baby. High on life. I can turn it on and turn it off pretty damn quick. But nonetheless, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. There it is, VHS. Did you know, though, well, you probably did if you've watched the movie, of course, when the title comes up, it does not say Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. It just says Halloween 5. So the title, The Revenge of Michael Myers, was really something that only came out during the promotion of the movie, on the posters, of course, on the VHS when it came out, the advertising, the marketing. But when you actually watch the movie and, the pumpkin slicing, it's great. It's actually a pretty good opening. And then it just says Halloween 5. That's it. No, The Revenge of Michael Myers. So interesting nonetheless. And what does Malak Akkad have to say about Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers? Well, this is what he had to say about it. He said, Halloween 5 was definitely rushed into production. They tried to capture that same lightning. That should say lightning. That says lighting. Lightning in a bottle that they got on 4. So a lot of things were rushed. And I feel they didn't assemble a lot of the key components of the Halloween 4 team that would have been vital. They went in a whole new direction. Malak Akkad. Thank you, Malak. What did the line producer have to say on the movie? The line producer, well, here he is. He had to say this. We started filming without a completed screenplay. That's Rick Nathanson, the line producer on Halloween 5. Now, let me say this. It is not unprecedented. Okay, for a movie to start filming without a completed screenplay. I'm not saying it's the norm, and I'm not saying it should be the norm. I'm just simply saying that it has happened in the past. And also situations where maybe you do go to production with a completed screenplay, but then throughout production, things pop up, things change. There's some things that sort of, maybe pop up that are a little bit, unexpected. There's some rearranging that needs to be done, and they have to rewrite certain scenes while actually in the moment. And so that can happen too. Of course, in an ideal situation, you never want to go to camera without a completed screenplay. However, although Malek Akkad was only 20 years old in 1989, and he certainly wasn't, I don't even think he was a part of Halloween 5, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he was in some small way. I'm not sure. But nonetheless, he would know because his father was who his father was. And they rushed it into production because of the success of Halloween 4 the year prior. And it's not like it was a gigantic, monumental success. In comparison to its budget and expectations, it did well. It did well, and certainly well enough. At the end of the 80s, mind you, let's not forget 1988. I mean, the slasher subgenre was well on its way down. And so nobody gave a shit. And here's Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and it did pretty well. So they rushed Halloween 5 into production. They had none of the key players from Halloween 4, essentially working on Halloween 5. Obviously, Dwight H. Little was not hired to come back. Neither was the writer. I mean, there was a lot of, they went in a completely different direction. Deborah Hill was the one that recommended Dominic Orthenian, Girard, this French director. Ooh, je m'appelle Dominique, oui, oui, oui. They hired him, who was this avant-garde sort of experimental kind of, young filmmaker, and had a lot of energy and a lot of, Ellie, I want you to walk sexy. That's true. That's what Ellie Cornell said. She was like, he always gave notes like, I want you to walk, I want you to walk a little more sexy. And she's like, I'm just walking my dog. Like, I don't, like, what do you, yes, but I need you to walk sexy, be sexy. And, so, I mean, there was a lot of weird and strange things that were going on with Halloween 5. They really did not know where they were going to go at the end of Halloween 4. Now, I would have to watch the documentary of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, to find out if the writer and Dwight H. Little had a sense of maybe where it could go from that moment. It's still one of the greatest, Halloween 4 I'm talking about here, still one of the greatest endings in... I hesitate to say horror history, but certainly Halloween history in the Halloween franchise. It's terrific. It's full circle. It's amazing. Where you go from there, I don't know. You don't have to make Jamie... Look, there was this one time I got into, no, I didn't get into it, but this guy sent me this message and he was trying to have a debate with me about how, well, they couldn't have Jamie the Killer, so that's why they made Halloween 5 the way they did, bruh. And it's like, hang on a sec. So what you're saying is that the Halloween 5 we got is the only direction they could have gone in? Of course not. There's many different plots and stories and narratives that you could have told without making Jamie the Killer. You didn't have to do the Halloween 5 route, so that's just somebody who doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. But you hire a young director who wanted to put his flair on it, his stamp on it, his sort of gothic kind of nature on it. And, we got what we got. It's almost like its own sort of thing. And there's no suspense in it. It's not particularly scary. I mean, yes, there's the laundry chute scene, but I hate always bringing that up because it's an overused cliche now. You see everybody go, I don't like that movie, except for the laundry chute scene. Yeah, okay, the laundry chutes. I mean, but that's it. I mean, that's all we can point to. There's just nothing there. There's nothing there. And, it is what it is. He was, I need you to walk sexy. He even told the cops in Halloween 5 that when you walk away from your scene, this is true, according to, one of the actors that played one of the cops, I need you to walk like penguins, to go back and forth like this, And it's like, you want us to walk like penguins as we're leaving the scene? Yeah, walk like penguins, And it's like, why do you want us to do that? And it's like, well, because it's funny, it's silly, And it's like, okay, so he wants... and that's why. And then you got, the clown music in there, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, and it's just this, I don't know what this is. I don't know what this is supposed to be. It doesn't, And the actors knew it. You watched the documentary to Halloween 5, they knew it. They knew it was a little like, I don't really understand what's going on here. What's this direction we've taken now? Obviously, we know about Ellie Cornell, and we know when she got the script and she was stunned that she went so early, but just in how she was stunned. I don't think she liked her character. She didn't quite say it verbatim, in over the years, or maybe she has, but, certainly it's no secret that she wasn't happy with how early she was killed off and how she was killed off. And this was something that I totally agree with her. When you look at how her character was handled, it's not just that her character was killed off early and originally was going to have scissors stuffed down her throat. And she thought that was a little too, she didn't quite say it like this, but I'll say it, maybe a little too, phallic. Okay. Having a phallic object slammed down your throat. You know what I'm saying? And so they decided in the shoulder. But she, again, her character, I don't believe her character. I just don't believe her character would behave in the way that she was written in Halloween 5. And one of the examples I like to use is when she's just out of the shower and Donald Pleasance, Dr. Loomis, calls home to have her check on Max, right? The dog, Max. I think it was Max, right? Yeah. Because Jamie's having her... She's having her thing. And so Dr. Loomis, who's, sneaking around the elementary school like a perv, and bourbon, walks over to Jamie. Jamie's, what is the max? The whole bad right? So give me the phone. And calls Rachel. And Rachel picks up the phone, and the whole scene plays out like she's annoyed that Dr. Loomis is calling and Rachel, where's Max? And she's like, well, he's just, blah, blah, blah. Can you go check on? Well, he's in the... And then at the very end, she's like, fine. I don't believe that this character would do that. Now, why don't I believe that? Right? If this was, I don't know, any of the other characters in the movie, like Sammy, right? Sure, I totally believe that, right? Or Wendy Kaplan's, what's her face? Blanking for some... Tina. If it was Tina, sure, I believe not just that Tina was a little more of the ditz, but I believe that Tina would have fine. Why would I believe that over Rachel? Well, it's for the simple fact of what Rachel has been through. This is only a year later. This isn't 20 years later. This is only a year later. And everything that Rachel had been through in that first movie, all this, she took on Michael Myers firsthand. She was on the roof with Michael Myers. She fell off the roof while being chased by Michael Myers. She was steering that fucking pickup truck and shit. She went toe to toe, her and Jamie, with Michael Myers, with the Shape. And she knows Dr. Loomis. She knows about Dr. Loomis and the seriousness of the situation. I don't believe for a second that if Dr. Loomis calls you and says, I need you to check, there's something strange going on, that you would, or that she would go, fine. No, I'm over-exaggerating it, obviously, for the sake of entertainment, but that's what she did. She's like, okay. I don't buy that. And I also don't believe that she would, that she would be so dismissive with her foster sister. I don't believe that. And that she would just be like, fine, and let Tina kind of take over the... I don't believe that. Everything that she's been through with her foster sister, because that's the arc. That's her arc. That's how it works. That's good writing. That's how you lay things. It makes no sense. It's difficult for the audience to believe in characters' motivations and decisions when they do something that doesn't coincide with what they've learned through experience leading up to that point, right? And so at the very beginning of Halloween 4, right, we have Rachel being a little, not annoyed, but we'll see a little, a little bit of her foster sister, because she's a young teenager. She wants to go out with Brady. She wants to hang out with her friends, right? And she's a little like, but she grows to love her foster sister. They grow a wonderful connection, right? We would assume as the, months go on after this whole ordeal, they get closer because of this experience, right? It's the experience of this that brings Rachel, not necessarily Jamie, although it will Jamie, but Jamie was very much liked Rachel. Do you love me, Rachel? Like a sister? Like a real sister? But I'm not your real sister, Jamie. Like there's a little bit of that going on, right? And it's this experience that should have brought Rachel closer to Jamie in ways that she never thought possible. Now, I know what you're going to say, but she stabbed her mother. Yes, she stabbed her mother. However, it's very clear that it wasn't, by the story they've told in Halloween 5, that it wasn't her. It was some weird thing that took over her body and all this stuff. And so there should be a little more empathy there. There should be a little more emotion there and not this dismissive emotional disconnect. I just don't believe it. Now, maybe you believe it. Okay, whatever helps you sleep at night. But I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And the cops and everything, and and then of course, and we know this for a fact. According to, I believe it was Danielle Harris that said this. I stand to be corrected, but I believe it was her that said while they were filming Halloween 5, as is often the case when you are shooting on location, you can shut down certain, streets. Well, you can't. You have to get permission to do that. And obviously the police come in and, you got to get permits, all that kind of stuff. But you know what I mean? You can't just go in there and do it. But obviously they were able to shut down certain kind of, areas. But still, the general public would come and watch from afar, from a distance, whatever the case is. And Danielle Harris said, quite a few, I'm paraphrasing this, but she said there were quite a few nights where there was this guy that was out there, like in this dark hat with this dark kind of raincoat or whatever. And he was just, a member of the public. He wasn't like looking weird or anything. He was just had a hat on and a raincoat. He would come out or whatever, and he'd watch, whatever. And apparently that may have been the catalyst for Dominique. Walk sexy. I'm just walking my dog. Yes, but do it sexy. Boom, boom, boom. I don't know. It's like Pepe Le Pew directing Halloween 5. And so, apparently this may have been the catalyst that gave Dominic and others the idea to implement this man in black into the narrative. Now, the reason the man in black was implemented, at the end of the day, I'll give you the Coles notes here, or the Cliff Notes, as you say in the States. The reason was because Halloween 5's narrative was struggling, and everybody, I think it was a little confusing. And so it was sort of tossed in there to add this mystery, a bit of this subplot, a bit of this hook. They call those things the hook, right? This little hook, this sort of like, ooh, what's this? Add a bit of something. You know what I'm saying? And to add this kind of thing. But they had no idea who it was. Like literally, nobody on set knew who it was. Dominic was asked, Dominic, what's the game plan here? Like, what is it? I don't know. Who cares? Those who do Halloween 6, they can worry about it. It's like, oh, so we have absolutely no fucking idea who this is. We don't know. And when you don't know what you're like, here's the thing here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. When you are the creators, and you don't know what this person's motivations are, you don't know why they're even there. You might have general ideas and thoughts of what it could be, but you have no idea. Then how do you know what to do with the character in the narrative? You don't, which is why he just walks around. right? And I know he's got the tattoo on his wrist. I get all that. They wanted to kind of, maybe because there was sort of a fleeting idea of maybe he's like Michael Myers' brother we never knew about or something, right? But it wasn't set in stone. It was literally just to add mystery and intrigue into the narrative late into the game. He wasn't in the script. They just added him in there, and they just said, whoever does Halloween 5 will worry about it. Or, excuse me, does Halloween 6. And that is why the Man in Black feels strange with the clanking sounds of tassels, not tassels, but whatever those things, whatever the things that clank that are nowhere to be seen on the boots. But anyway, it was... And then, of course, there is the Myers house. The Myers house. There it is. Now look, the Myers house, this house, which is still there, by the way, sold not too long ago, is a beautiful, fantastic looking Gothic, Victorian, ethereal, gaudy mansion, whatever. It is fantastic. But not for Halloween. It's not the Myers house. It's not the Myers house. And the fact that there are fans that are willing to accept bullshit is the very reason why we continue to have bullshit. Folks, if you are a Halloween fan, listen, it's a great house. It's a great house, but it's not the Myers house. And I remember as a kid, because again, when this movie came out, folks, and this came out in 1989, there was no internet, there was no social media, there was no smartphone. I mean, you just I had no way of knowing what the Myers, I just popped on the movie, I'm watching the movie, and Spurs, that's what it is. J. Edwards, Spurs. Thank you. Yes, Spurs, tassels, Spurs. Well, cousins of, Spurs, that's it. He's got no spurs, and yet you hear them. But it's just one of those things where I even at 10 years old, I might have been 11, I'm watching the movie, and I'm like, the fuck is this? When Dr. Loomis first goes over to the house, right? He's got his cane, and he opens the gate. I'm like, where's he going? What's this place? I had no idea it was the Myers house. It's not even close. It's not even close. You see, what should have been done is production, the art department. Dominic may have been like, but I want Myers house. I want this big, gothic, sexy. Somebody should have been like, we should not do that, Dominic. But why? It's what I want. Look at it. It's beautiful. Yes, in another movie, Dominic. Oh, no, but I want it on this one. Come on. No, in another movie, Dominic. We can't do it. I don't care. Do it. Come on. And they did anyway. And there it is. And it takes me out of it. Every time I watch it, I'm like, I can't, like, you are asking your audience to believe with no explanation that this is the Myers house. It's insulting. Now, listen, I know I'm going to the extreme here, but when you really think about it, when you take it at face value, and you think about it, it's kind of insulting when you think about it, right? Because it's like, why are you... Like, that's not, I mean, would you accept, and here's the thing. Here's why Halloween fans and horror fans have just been like, here's why. It's because the Myers house is not iconic. Oh, it's iconic in the horror realm, right? For sure. But it was only used in the first Halloween. You saw it for a few scenes in Halloween 2, and then you never saw it again. Except for Halloween Kills. Yeah, I know, but you know what I'm trying to say. And so it's one of these things. It's not like do you think Elm Street fans would have put up with that? Do you think Elm Street fans, when you get to Elm Street 5, if the Myers house in Halloween 5 was supposed to be shoehorned in like the Elm Street house, do you think Elm Street fans would be like, well, whatever, it's not bad, it's not pretty good. No way in hell. There would be riots in the streets. There would be pickets outside. Fuck that. No, but because the Myers house is, was only used really for all intents and purposes in one movie, and because there were not these sequels with the Myers house, it didn't become this character in the 80s. Because remember, Halloween 2 was 1981. There was never a Halloween, and the Myers house was not in Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So there was what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There was 8 years from 81 to 89 where nobody was thinking about the Myers house. Nobody cared about the Myers house. It wasn't in pop culture. Again, but Elm Street was ruling the 80s in 84 and 85 and 87. And every Elm Street movie, you've got the Elm Street house. It became iconic. It's one of the most iconic houses in horror. It crosses the threshold of its own genre. You can't quite say that about the Myers house. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why. I think it's because people aren't as emotionally attached, in a general sense. So they're just like, it's all right, it's pretty good, it's not bad, It's wrong, damn it. It's wrong. It's wrong. And it should never have happened. And then you get to Halloween 6 and we're supposed to... And Halloween 6 is canon with Halloween 5. And we're supposed to now think of this as the Myers house. I'll tell you this, Halloween 6, the Myers house in Halloween 6 it doesn't look anything like the Myers house either, but it's much better than the Myers house in Halloween 5. So we're supposed to believe that somewhere between 1978 and 1989, there was these massive renovations that happened to the Myers house to turn it into this gothic, ethereal, gaudy fucking Beetlejuice mansion. And then somewhere between 89 and 95, they did this whole fucking construction thing again to bring it back down to a little more something, suburban. But we accept it. We're like, okay, no. We just accept it. We just eat it up. We just accept it. Because at this point, there's nothing we can do. And then, of course, you got, listen, Don Shanks. We love Don Shanks. You got The Mask, though, of course. Oh, God. The Mask. And then you've got, he's just walking aimlessly in the background, under the tree when Sammy and Tina are, walking, and the camera's, obviously it's on a steady cam and they're moving around and you see Shanks I love this. I love how Halloween 5, like gigantic Halloween 5 fans. And listen, hey, again, I don't like Halloween 5, but I'm not knocking those who do. I'm just saying the argument that some people have tried to come at me with, well, no, that's not Michael Myers under the tree. That's actually the gardener. And that's why he's walking around aimlessly. I'm like, guys, come on. You're better than that. It's not the gardener. It's not the gardener. It's not the janitor. It's Michael Myers walking aimlessly around under the tree. There's no suspense. It looks like he's waiting for his cue. It looks like Shanks didn't know he was on camera and he was just waiting for his cue. It's like he's kicking rocks. It's like, oh God, no. And then of course the scene when Rachel, I have a whole video on my channel where I talk about this. Rachel is in the towel. She's in the towel, right? And Shanks is in the closet, and there's an opportune moment for Michael to come out and kill her right then and there, and he doesn't do it. He comes out of the closet and then just kind of goes, ah, and goes in the other direction. I don't believe. Why did he leave? What? I don't understand. It's just Michael coming out of the closet Michael coming out of the closet in that scene just looks like somebody cosplaying as Michael. You know what I'm saying? That's part of the problem, is that as the series goes on, you run into cosplay Michael. That's how I kind of feel about H2O. And this is not me knocking the performances in terms of the actor or the actors. It's not personal. I'm knocking the performances because, I think there was direction that should have been given, or I would have given different direction to a lot of these actors. I think James Jude Courtney is the best since Nick Castle. And there's reasons for that, right? But again, me ranting about Halloween 5, which, you know, is me having fun with the film, right? It's not the worst horror movie I've ever seen. It might not even be the worst Halloween movie for me. That might belong to Resurrection, but I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about it lately. But I can certainly say that I don't enjoy this movie because, as the thumbnail says, as my thumbnail says today, and you can read it right there on the bottom right, the film that changed everything, is because Halloween 5 is the movie that set the Halloween franchise on a course of choose your own adventure and disastrous, you know what I mean? It did, because this was the movie that they just didn't know what to do. When Michael Myers was, you know, killed into the mine shaft and Jamie is standing at the top of the stairs, they should have just left it there. They should have just left it. They should have just left it. As I've said many times, it's a great ending. It's a great ending, right? Because it comes full circle. But it's only a great ending if you don't make another one, if you don't make another movie, right? And I mean, it would have been so amazing. Loomis is losing his mind. He's ready to shoot a little girl, you know, and there it is, full circle. Evil wins. She's in a clown costume. She's standing. She's just stabbed her foster mother. And because there isn't a Halloween 5 yet, we don't know that her foster mother survives. You see, you get to Halloween 5, we find out that she actually survived the stabbing. But at the end of Halloween 4, to us, for all we know, she just murdered her foster mom. That's amazing. And she's standing up there with the scissors in hand and the blood and everything. And there she is. It's come full circle, right? And you just cut to black and the credits roll. And there's no music really. It's like this sound, you know, the sound gaudy scape, like very much similar to the soundscape that you hear in the opening of the film. And it's just, it's really impactful. And without getting Dwight H. Little back and the writer of Halloween 4 and getting some of that creative team back to figure out what's the best sort of course for this, as Malik Akkad said, and he says it right here, Halloween 5 was definitely rushed into production. They tried to capture same lightning in a bottle that they got on 4. So a lot of things were rushed. And I feel they didn't assemble a lot of the key components of the Halloween 4 team that would have been vital. They went in a whole new direction. And creatively, this caused problems. They started production without a full script. They shoehorned in the Man in Black to make up for their incompetence, really, at the end of the day. And really what the Man in Black did was it just added to the incompetence. And that's partially, not the only reason, but it's partially why Halloween 5, why the story just sat dormant for 6 years. Nobody knew what the fuck this was. It was just, because where do you go? Because it was messy, because there was no creative motivation behind it. It was always trying to make up mistakes. It was never because of wonderful ideas that were pushing the narrative in a really fascinating direction that made canonical sense. No, it was all about being avant-garde. Ooh, wee, wee, wee. It was all about just this style over substance. And there is a lot of style there because you have Dominic Orthanian-Girard, who's got this gothic sort of, you know, French background of his filmmaking. Listen, it's beautifully shot in certain scenes. And although a lot of the suspense with Myers is during the day and there's no suspense, there's no atmosphere at all. But, you know, when you get to nighttime and, you know, the barn scene and the light coming through the, you know, the broken roof and things like that, you know, there's a lot of things in there that is, in terms of the cinematography and the set decoration stuff, there's a lot that you can like from it. So style-wise, you know, there's a lot of sort of, you know, there's some fun things there, but substance, it's too avant-garde. It's not taking into account, does this make sense? It's not that Rachel's death didn't make sense, but I think if I, like, for example, if I, and not back then, of course, because I would have been 10 years old, but if 45-year-old Dave, if I was 45 in 1989 and I was brought in to make this movie, the first thing I would say is, okay, well, they would say, okay, we don't know what to do. That's what they would say. They would say, we don't know what to do. Because we haven't hired back the same team. Where do we go, Dave? What do we do? And I would say, okay, well, the heart of your story here has to be Rachel and Jamie. That's the heart, because when you look at the previous installment, even though we don't know where to go here, like if this was the writer's room, these are the things I'd be saying. I'd be saying the heart of your story is Rachel and Jamie, because canonically it makes sense to carry that over, because now we're going to see the growth in their relationship, the growth in their friendship, and their growth in their sisterhood. And it's ironic because they're not biological sisters. They're not even stepsisters. They're foster sisters. So they're not related to each other in any way, shape, or form at all. Not that you are with a step, either, but there is a bit by marriage there. Like when you have a stepsister or a stepbrother, it's usually because because one of your parents is married to, somebody. But with a foster sister, there is nothing there. There's nothing. And so that's the irony of it. And to see that emotional, like to see Rachel really accept Jamie as her sister, her blood, is the heart of the franchise moving forward. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't kill Rachel in the movie if it makes sense. That doesn't mean that you don't kill Jamie in the movie if it makes sense. All I'm saying is that if you want a foundation for which to figure out the direction to go, that's it. That's it. That's it right there, right? There's no Man in Black. There's no, like, nothing. That's nothing to do with that. That's it. And that would have been, and then of course you sit in the writer's room and you take ideas for which way you can go, because there's many ways you can go, right? There's not just one way you can go. There's many ways you can go, or maybe you go, there's a little bit of every way that you go, but the heart of that story is Rachel and Jamie. And that's what it should have been. That should have been obvious. It should have been obvious. And, it either wasn't, or they just didn't care, and they just didn't, they hired Dominic Orthenian Gerard, and he comes in and he adds his sexy flavor to it. And it's like what Rian Johnson did with The Last Jedi. He comes in and does his own thing. And it's okay to put your style on it, but you've got to follow you have to do, when you're the second man in, you have to follow organically the path of the characters' arcs and what makes sense and what's going to happen. And Rachel's behavior in 5 makes no sense to what she would have liked, what she would have learned in 4. I mean, you mean to tell me that she went through all of what she went through with her foster sister in 4, and I know her foster sister stabbed her mom. I know that, but her mother survived, and it's very clear based on what you're telling me that she was possessed and taken over by this thing. It was out of her control. So there should still have been, and use that as a connection thing, right? As a growing sort of connection to be able to reestablish a relationship there. And that's what it should have been. This Halloween 5, listen, usually when I hear, I can have fun with it. That's what usually people say. And really what that means is it's a pile of shit, but I don't want to say it's a pile of shit because I kind of like it. And, and that's fine. That's fine. And just because I think it's dog crap, that doesn't mean there's not some redeeming qualities. I get frustrated with the direction, because it was this movie that was the catalyst for Halloween 6. Now, although Halloween 6 is a better movie in terms of atmosphere and suspense and cinematography and fall vibe and all that kind of stuff than 5 is, for sure, it still has the story. It has to explain the Man in Black. You have these weird cult things and Danny, kill for me. You get Dr. Wynn and there's all this cult, and it's just like, what the hell? And I don't care if it's the producer's cut or the theatrical cut. It's the same story. It's the same. And so, and there you go. And then you get Halloween H2O because of Halloween 6. And you get Resurrection because of H2O. And Resurrection is weird fucking thing. And then, of course, they scrap that. You get Rob Zombie's movies. And so, like, everything can be traced back to 5. I'm curious to know, I would be curious to know that if Halloween 5 have had creative minds behind it, that had they taken their time a bit more, brought back Dwight H. Little, or brought back the writer for 4 escapes my mind, had brought him back, or had taken their time a bit more, maybe not Halloween 1989, maybe Halloween 1990 or something, you know, is when they released the movie, taken their time a bit more and really figured out the trajectory of the emotional, you know, foundation, which I believe is Rachel and Jamie. And it makes me wonder, would we have gotten Halloween 6? And then if we didn't get the Halloween 6 we got, would there ever have been an H2O? Right? And that's what I mean by Halloween 5 is the movie that really changed everything. And it changed the trajectory of the Halloween franchise at the end of the day, for better or worse. There's a lot of people that love Halloween 5, that love Halloween, you know, Resurrection. So I'm obviously only speaking with my own opinion. These are my own opinions. But it was the catalyst. There was a video I did like 5 or 6 years ago where I said Halloween 5 destroyed the franchise. I think it's got nearly like 100,000 views or something. And it's true. In many ways, it turned the franchise into a choose your own adventure with stops and starts. And it just became a mess. It became a mess because they decided to be so avant-garde with 5 and end it with a gigantic, you know, plot point that the writers and the director in 5 had no idea where to go. Folks, good writers and good directors, you know, when they make a film, okay, certain mysteries, right, in film, cliffhanger endings, you know, things that may not make sense at first to the viewer, but it's very clear, you know, that this is one of those, you know, like a Nolan movie, you know what I mean? He's good with those layers and the cinematic language and the symbolism and the, you know, the cliffhangers. Like whenever you watch, you know, a film that plays to the audience a little bit, or it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, or maybe it leaves, you know, it open to interpretation. I would like to believe, and usually, you know, this is the case, it's not because the filmmakers don't know what to do or where to go, right? Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that the writers and the filmmakers don't understand it and they just decided to stop. I would like to believe in most cases, the director has an idea, right? Stanley Kubrick knows exactly what the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey means. He knows exactly what it means. Why? Because he has to know. Even if your interpretation doesn't align with his, even if your interpretation is completely different, Kubrick has to know. All good storytellers and filmmakers have to know, because it helps everything else that leads up to that moment make sense narratively, right? Because if you don't know where you're going, then you end up with Halloween 5 and things don't make sense. I don't even know where I'm, you know what I'm saying? Right? I guarantee you that Christopher Nolan knows at the end of Inception whether that little top fell or it didn't. He knows. He knows. He knows. He has to know. That doesn't mean that you can't disagree or interpret it, but he has to know in his own mind whether it fell or not. You know what I'm saying? And so the writers and the director of Halloween 5 needed to know who that was, because they need to know how to use him that makes sense narratively, right? Oh no, don't worry. The part 6 will figure that out. What? Incompetence. It's incompetence is what it is. And I've always been frustrated at that. Even as a 10-year-old child, I was frustrated at that. I was frustrated. You know, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Even at 10 years old, I was upset at the Myers house looking so different. I was upset who the man in black is. And now and because they didn't know how to use the man in black, he was just aimlessly walking around. There was no, you know, I was like, oh, but he's got the tattoo and Myers had the tattoo. Oh, but what is it, you know? No idea. No idea. And so it was very frustrating and still is very frustrating for me to watch. It's not all bad, right? Like I said, there's that laundry chute scene, which is great. There's some great suspense there for sure. But beyond that, I'm not a fan of the movie. And again, listen, if you are a huge fan of Halloween 5, please know that, I am always theatrical here on this channel. Well, not always, but when I'm talking about Halloween 5, I like to go to the extreme and it's dog shit. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen in my life by a long shot. Okay. I like to go to the extreme for the sake of entertainment. So please understand that when I say it's a big pile of dog shit, please try not to be offended by that. That's not me saying that everyone who likes the movie is a piece of shit. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. And I have to say that because there's so much lack of nuance now in the, in the world and in the online fandom and community, that there are people out there that even if they don't realize it, they interpret it that way. When somebody gets riled up and starts talking, about a movie that they love, and they're being like me, very animated and over the top and being very, wild and it's done saying all these things, there are a lot of people that really get taken back by that and get offended by it, like I've attacked them, and there's psychological reasons for it, obviously, but that's not what it means. This isn't personal. This is just my opinion on a Halloween film that I find so frustrating, especially coming after Halloween 4, right? Halloween 4 was, wow. Just not bad. You know what I'm saying? And then Halloween 5, what are we doing? Anyways, there's lots to talk about in Halloween 5. Oh, and of course, the ending. The ending of Halloween 5, there's Michael Myers looking emasculated, kneeling next to what looks like a water fountain, his mask still on, he's in chains, and he's kneeling there playing with his chains. The only thing that's missing is a thought bubble above his head. That's going, oh, shucks, they caught me. I mean, that's the only thing that's missing. He looks so emasculated. And that's why I've said on this channel for years, I've said we must never see Michael Myers in vulnerable positions. And then because the internet lacks nuance, there have been people that have mistakenly said that accused me or tried to point out that we see Michael, in vulnerable positions all the time. What about getting stabbed in the neck with a knitting needle? What about getting stabbed in the gut? What about getting shot in the eye? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, listen, when you are chasing somebody, right? When you are chasing somebody, you will always face adversity, right? No, I'm not talking about we should never see Michael face adversity or, face struggles. Well, of course, when he's chasing down a final girl, the final girl is going to fight back and he's going to get hit with things and stabbed with things and knocked. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being essentially emasculated, looking weak and defeated, right? That's what I'm talking about. And so, seeing him emasculated, looking weak and, and just ordinary in this cell on his knees with chains and the mask still on, which also makes no sense. I just remember thinking that you don't need why are we seeing him from this perspective? Why not just show maybe his silhouette or his hands? Just show his hands, his dirty, bloody hands with the chains around his hands, and just show his hands there. Just a shot of his hands in chains. That's it. That's all you need to show, right? You don't need to show him kneeling next to a water fountain. It's the same thing of why I didn't like seeing the beatdown in Halloween Kills. When we see, the officer take his mask off and beat him to the ground. I didn't like seeing that. I didn't like seeing Michael emasculated. We know that probably happened. We as the audience know that likely happened, but we don't need to see it. I think it's incredibly important to preserve the integrity of the mystique and the enigma of the boogeyman and not to show him in vulnerable, emasculated positions. I don't mean not showing him facing adversity, right? They're two completely separate things. 100%. But the ending of Halloween 5 is one of those things where I was like, but having said all of that, ladies and gentlemen, having talked now for nearly an hour and having said all of that, it is still the 35th anniversary of Halloween 5. And like I said, it has some redeeming qualities. That opening credit scene is fantastic. The music from Alan Howarth is great. The laundry chute scene, stabbing through the laundry chute scene with Danielle Harris, great moment in the movie, great moment of suspense, of course. And it's got one of the craziest drunk Dr. Loomises of all. And it's got a great line, one of Dr. Loomis's best lines, which is, I'm paraphrasing, I pray that he would burn in hell, but in my heart I knew that hell would not have him. That's a great fucking line, and it's in Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. It's not all bad, folks. Don't misinterpret my over-the-top theatrics for Halloween 5 into me saying that I think this is like the worst horror movie ever made in the history of cinema. It's not by a long shot. But do I think it's the worst Halloween movie? Yeah, probably. Resurrection's up there too. But although Resurrection's probably worse than Halloween 5, but for different reasons. But can you have fun with it, as they say? Yes, you can. You certainly can. But happy 35th anniversary. After all that, happy 35th anniversary, Halloween 5. Nonetheless, folks, jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts on Halloween 5. What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What are you happy that they did? What are you not happy that they did? Are you just as frustrated with everything in Halloween 5 as I am? Jump into the comment section and let me know. I want to know your thoughts on Halloween 5, maybe what you would have done differently. Jump into the comment section and let me know. Let's jump over to the chat room now and see what all of you are saying. All right. Now, I know a few super chats did come in. Let me get these before I forget. We've got the first super chat to come in is Josh McKenna, who sends in $9.99. Thank you, Josh. Appreciate that. And says, do you like documentaries? Have you seen or heard of the new documentary Quiet on Set? I have heard about it. I have not seen it, and I do like documentaries. Yeah, I've heard it's quite an eye-opening thing with Nickelodeon. So, but I have not seen it yet, Josh. Not yet. Frank Riker, Frank, my man, one of our great mods, co-host of the Slaughtered Lamb Movie Podcast. Frank says, so Dave, you're saying Dominic told Ellie, no, turn around, do some more. No, turn around, do some more, do it slowly. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Do it very slowly. Now take off your stockings one by one. Hey, that's what Ellie Cornell said. But yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Reese Wilson! Reese Wilson? You are back, Reese, my brother from down under, my Indiana Jones brother. How are you doing, Reese? It's been a while since I've seen you around. Reese Wilson sends in nearly $8 Australian and says, someone needs to do a re-edit of Halloween 5. Make it more avant-garde and redo the Halloween theme and score with a French accordion. I am down, Reese. I am down. Let's do it. Brandon Collins sends in $5 and says, the reason it was rushed is a COD secured rare exhibitor presale bonuses that made it profitable before it opened, provided it was ready in a year. Yes, I remember hearing about that. That's a good footnote to add to it for sure. But Malek Akkad didn't care. Malek Akkad didn't. Here's the thing, and this may be a hot topic. Malek Akkad is known as the godfather of the Halloween franchise, and for good reason. I understand it. And I'm not here to say we should take that title away, although I am here to at least put a different perspective into your mind. We understand why he carried the franchise on and on and on and on and on, which ultimately is why he was the financier, the executive producer. I get it. I'm not saying that it's not deserving. However, in my mind, the real godfather of Halloween is Irwin Yablans. And that is because if it wasn't for Irwin Yablans, there would be no Halloween. If it wasn't for Mustafa Akkad, there may still have been a Halloween. It just would have not been financed by Mustafa Akkad. Mustafa Akkad was not the only financer, the independent financer around. Certainly, he was the one that stepped up, put in $325,000, and they made it happen. But Irwin Yablans was the one that came up with the idea to do a low-budget horror movie in the same vein as Psycho, right? In terms of the theater of the mind. That was very important to Irwin Yablans. He wanted to do a low-budget, old-school, even in 1978, that kind of horror movie was kind of on its way out. He wanted to do a theater of the mind, horror movie, right? No blood, just all suspense and stuff. That was his idea. It was his idea to approach John Carpenter because of his movie Assault on Precinct 13. It was Irwin Yablans' idea to not only set the movie on Halloween, but call the movie Halloween. And it was Irwin Yablans' idea for the now iconic poster art of the original Halloween, one of the most iconic posters in the history of movies, with the fist and the knife. It was Irwin Yablans' idea. So if anybody's the godfather of Halloween, it ain't Mustafa Akkad, it ain't John Carpenter, it's Irwin Yablans. The inception begins with Irwin Yablans. If Mustafa Akkad had said, no, I don't want to do this. If he had said no, then Irwin Yablans would have shopped it somewhere else. Maybe the movie would not have come out in 78. Maybe he would have spent another year trying to find financing, right? Maybe he would have forgotten about it, and maybe it would have been a movie that came out a bit late. Who knows? But if Irwin Yablans had his heart set on it, which he did, he was excited about it, there was a script, and the movie would have got made eventually. Eventually it would have got made. And so, to me, in my mind, when we talk about the Godfather, the inception, the person responsible, it's Irwin Yablans. He's responsible for the movie idea. He's responsible for hiring John Carpenter. He's responsible for setting it on Halloween, calling it Halloween, and the poster. So, you know what I'm saying? But I do understand why Mustafa Akkad is given that title. But Mustafa Akkad, I don't particularly think cared about the quality of the films. I don't think he cared. Whereas Irwin Yablans really did care about the quality, right? Because that was his motivation. I don't want blood and guts. I want that suspense and eeriness. And he really cared about that. Mustafa Akkad was just, hey, this makes money. Great. I want to make more because it keeps making me money. And I'm not trying to knock Mustafa Akkad. I'm just simply saying that he had different motivations. And so, yes, he kept the franchise going. And you could say, well, if it wasn't for Mustafa Akkad, would there have been a Halloween franchise? Maybe not. Hey, I'd be okay with that. You're talking to the wrong person if you're trying to convince me that, like I would have been okay with just a couple of Halloween movies, right? But yes, because of Mustafa Akkad, we got, Halloween 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and H2O and Resurrection, and it is what it is. But it's interesting. Maybe a hot take for some. All right. And then super chat. We got Happy Sanjo returns as a member. Thank you, Happy. Alex Shambach sends in a member chat, says, one of my biggest gripes about H5 is the warm spring-like feel to the movie. Too many daytime shots with tons of greenery for the eye to see. Not to mention Michael walking in plain sight. Ugh, yeah, we were just talking about that. It is, there's no, the daytime scenes with Halloween 5, there's very little atmosphere. There's very little suspense. It's just not there, it's just not there. There's some pretty decent suspense in 4 during the day. Happy Sanjo gifted a membership. Oh, very nice. Happy gifted the membership. Who did you gift to? Let's see here. Happy gifted a membership to Kenny525. Kenny525 was gifted a membership. Joseph Esposito sends in $10. Thank you, Joseph, and says, Dave, your thoughts on Insidious Chapter 1. Oh, Joseph, you must be new. I've gloated about that movie forever. I watched it for the first time recently. Thought the first half was a great slow burn. Then it got far-fetched and silly, especially with the Ghostbusters team. I am a big fan of that first Insidious. I think it's one of the best studio-released Hollywood horror films of the last 20 years, 25 years. That first Insidious. I was lucky enough to see it in the theater when it came out, and I think it's terrific. I do. I love the slow burn. It gets a little far-fetched at the end, sure, but I think it's earned. What I don't like about horror movies that deal in the supernatural realm, you know, and the possession realm, are films that peak too soon. When you look at the first Insidious and you look at the first Conjuring, they do get a little sensational towards the end. And although I'm somebody that likes to keep things fairly realistic all the way through, even I am okay with a little, you know, sensationalism. I mean, you do have to be able to, it is a movie after all, and you do have to entertain your audience. You do have to, the trick is earning it. The trick is building a compelling story with really great characters that are fleshed out, building that slow burn, wonderful suspense, wonderful intrigue and mystery and this aura, and then hitting them in the third act. And as long as it doesn't go like totally off the rails, I mean, you can go too far, but I'm okay with where Insidious ended up. I'm okay where the first Conjuring ended up because it felt earned to me. When you look at The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, they peaked in that movie in the first, like, they peaked in the prologue. I mean, it got fucking wild in the prologue. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to go. So for me, you know, I'm just not a fan. You know, I'm not a fan of where, you know, these series usually end up. Live to Fish says, Dave, I'm excited to tell you I plan on doing my first Halloween 5 video on my channel, ripping it to shreds. Sadly, as a young kid, I tolerated the film. Well, listen, always remember, be true to yourself. Always remember, be true to yourself. If you like and this goes for everybody out there, if you like Halloween 5 and you think it's a terrific film, and you have a YouTube channel and you want to talk about how much you love it, then do that. I'm not saying you, I'm just saying in general, do it. Own it, right? Like I've always said, it's not the popular thing to love Avatar. I don't know why. Well, I know why, but the same buzzwords are used over and over again until it's nauseating. You can tell people don't think for themselves. It's just an echo chamber of you know, groupthink. But I love Avatar, and that apparently is not the hip, cool thing to say. I love it. I don't give a fuck what people think. I think it's great. Love it. Love it. Love it. I really liked Barbie. I went, I saw it, I enjoyed it. I had a fun time. That's not the hip, cool thing to say. I couldn't care less. Own what you love what you love, dislike what you dislike, and never be afraid to share it. And as I always say, you should, and if you don't, you will now. I'm a very theatrical person. I'm an actor, right? I'm a performer. So naturally, you know, I take my zest for performing to YouTube, and I like to go over the top and be theatrical, and because it's fun, because it's entertaining. Never take me too seriously when I'm sitting here going, that fucking thing is a complete pile of dog shit. It's just because it's fun to do, right? It's fun to do. But if you love it, all power to you. I think that's amazing. I would, and you're always welcome here. Halloween 5, Halloween, you know, Resurrection fans, you are welcome on this channel. And if anybody gives you a hard time in the chat and calls you names, tell them to fuck off. All right, let me see here. Just want to make sure I'm getting everything. Dalton Barron sends in $4.99, says, little off topic, but have you ever noticed the mistake at the end of H78? You can see Michael carrying Annie for a split second. You've seen Immaculate. Oh, those are two different things. I have not seen Immaculate yet. No. You can see Michael carrying Annie for a split second at the end of H78. I don't know what specifically you're talking about, so I will have to watch it and then see if I agree with you that it's a mistake. I'm not quite... What scene are you talking about specifically? Brandon Collins sends in $2, says, Frank Riker told me he secretly likes Scream. He does. Frank's a gigantic fan of Scream. Could you imagine? All right, let me just see here. All right, got that. Got that. Just want to make sure I've got everything. Davey Deathray, one of our great members here. Davey Deathray sends in a member chat. Thank you, Davey, and says, Dave, did you get a chance to check out Late Night with the Devil? I have not yet. No, my wife and I had a good time with it. The format and real-time aspect really puts you there. Definitely a think piece. I'm looking forward to it, man. I've heard wonderful things about it. Obviously, there's the people getting their knickers in a twist over some AI art that was briefly seen for 0.8 seconds. But I am looking forward to checking it out. I don't know when I'm going to have a chance to check it out, but no, I'm looking forward to it. It looks and it sounds right up my alley. Right up my alley. Woo. When you talk as much as I do, you get thirsty. Joseph Esposito sends another $10. Thank you, Joseph. And says, thanks for the Insidious answer. No problem. By the way, I've been a big fan and follower since you came on the scene for Halloween 18. Amazing, Joseph. Thank you. I'm curious what your favorite Jack Nicholson movie outside of The Shining. Ooh, that's a good question. I would probably say maybe... it could be Chinatown or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Those two movies are just brilliant. But he was also, I mean, this is a bit later in his career, but he was also terrific in The Departed as well. The remake with Matt Damon and was Matt Damon in that? I think he was he? Anyways, DiCaprio. That was a great movie. I mean, it wasn't a main, like a lead, but he was a sort of a side character, or a supporting character, but he was great in that. I'm going to say Chinatown or One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest off the top of my head. If I went through his Rolodex, I mean, I probably might be able to think of a few more, but those are two good ones at the very least. Robert Thidoff says, Dave, the H5 house is horrible, but the H6 house has really grown on me over the years. It's a cool looking house, similar to the original where I can suspend disbelief. Yeah, no, I mean, look, the Halloween, the Myers house in Halloween 6, you can suspend your disbelief a bit easier because it's just, it's in the same spirit. It's in the same spirit. So, okay. But, and like I said, I don't hate the Halloween 5 house, the Myers house in Halloween 5. I don't hate the house in and of itself. It's phenomenal. I'd love to shoot a horror movie there. It's great. It's just not, it's just when you're asking me to suspend this level of disbelief, to me, it's just insult. And I know it was a different time. It was 1989. And I know there's far more serious things in the world to be upset about. And please don't think that I mean this in a real, like, I lose sleep over this. I just mean that to take it at face value is like, I would never, like, if I was I would never agree to that. I just would be like, no, we have to find somewhere else. But this was because of Dominic Athenian Girard, because of his gothic vision, because of his style as a filmmaker. And I just think Mustafa should have stepped in and been like, no, that makes no sense narratively. if you want to make a different horror movie and use hey, listen, if Halloween 5 is a huge success and just as every bit of a success as Halloween, 4, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll sign you to like a 2-picture deal and you can do your own gothic horror movie using this house. It has nothing to do with Halloween. Fine, sure. You know what I mean? Yeah, great. But for Halloween, for the Myers house, or you know what? Why make it the Myers house? Like, that's another thing. Like, I know that they try to, put a square peg into a round hole and make it fit narratively. He goes back. You got Jamie there at the vanity brushing her hair. And I get they tried to narratively, make it fit. So there was this emotional, psychological attachment for Myers to go. I get it. But since the house is so different, why not just make it a house in Haddonfield? And come up with some other reason why Myers is fucking hanging out there cooking cheeseburgers. Like, at this point in the game, we didn't see a Myers house in Halloween 4. There was never any moment where he went to a house in Halloween 4. So maybe he's just hanging out at this big mansion because, I don't know, it's abandoned. There you go. There's your motivation. I'm in the writer's room. Somebody says, yeah, but we need to have a reason. It's abandoned. It's abandoned and it's in the same neighborhood where his house is. Well, why wouldn't you go to his house? Because maybe it's no longer abandoned and it's lived in now, like how it was in Halloween Kills. You come up with some sort of, and then, so that gives you a reason to use this gothic mansion. It's no longer the Myers house, so you don't have to worry about fucking stooges like me going 35 years later. And you can have this cool kind of you know what I mean? And it's properly motivated. It's justified. It's properly justified. He's hanging out there because it's in the neighborhood and it's the only house that's abandoned, and because it's big and it's got different hallways and alcoves and up and down and stairs and stuff. And fuck, you could have they kind of did have a cat and mouse thing in the movie, but you could have really exploited that even further and gone even further with that and had some wonderful kind of moments. But anyway, they didn't do that. They didn't do that. They did not do that, folks. They did not do that. All right. Do I have all the super chats and member chats? I just want to make sure. I believe I do. Yes. Joseph Esposito. Davey Deathray. Okay. Yes. Good. Just want to make sure I've got them all. Good to see Brooke Scarlett here and Aaron Click, Zodiac Z. Brandon Collins, of course. There's Reese Wilson, my man, Reese. Or the house was demolished. Yeah, that's exactly it. Or the house was demolished. You didn't have to. All I'm trying to say is that it didn't have to be the Myers house, right? It just could have been any house. And you could still have Myers hanging out there. That's all I'm saying. And I would have fought for that. Entertainment Wizard says Michael does not kill Rachel, but instead knocks her out and takes her to an abandoned house and ties her up and leaves her for the final act. Are you suggesting that is what happened, or are you suggesting that that's what should have happened? I know that that she's in the attic at the very end, but it's clearly communicated that she's dead. And, even though we don't see her die from the stab into the shoulder, it's, I think it's okay for us to believe that he would have done that quite a few times and maybe slit her throat. So I believe that she's absolutely dead, of course. Kings Hockey sends in $5, says Dominic Garthenian Gerard was an assistant director on Kills. Maybe that's why it stunk. No, that wouldn't have been why. I don't know. I know he's listed, but I don't know if he was listed as a joke or what, because I have heard nothing. Is he in the credits? That's what we need to find out. Is Dominic Orthenian Gerard listed as an AD in the Halloween Kills credits? Because that's a big role. An assistant director? Is he first AD? Was he? Because, okay, I can tell you right now, is he just listed as hang on a sec. What is he just listed as? Hang on. Because if he was listed as a first assistant director, that's somebody who runs the set. There's no way. He was listed as Halloween Kills. He's listed as a second unit or assistant director. Okay, so the reason why that says second unit or assistant director is because the IMDb category lists it that way. So that's why it says that. Look, I can tell you right now, if he was an assistant director, he would have been on set every day. Every day he would have been on set as an AD. Especially if he was like first or second AD. I doubt that very much. Second unit director? Maybe. I could see that because that's somebody that would go off, not with the main unit. They would go off and shoot, insert shots and pickup shots and while they're shooting the main hospital stuff, maybe the second unit director goes off and shoots, some of the small little things at the Myers house, maybe, or maybe something smaller, obviously. But if he's in the credits of Halloween Kills, then he really did work on it. That's what we need to find out, though, not just on IMDb. Live to Fish, $5 says, I also bring you and other big dogs up in my videos as my go-to favorites. If you're comfortable with that, I've also mentioned to me, Billy, a lot. Of course, yeah, man, you do what you have to do, man. You do what you have to do. Just make sure to create your own identity. Joseph Esposito sends in $5, says, Dave, ever seen the Mothman Prophecies? I have. I like that movie with Richard Gere. You should do a watch along for it. Well, I don't do you mean I don't do just watch alongs on the channel. It would be, if I did it, it would be something on my membership only. I don't just do watch alongs on the channel. So if I do it, yeah, maybe I'm not sure how many people would be into that, but I do like that movie though. I do like that film. Dalton Barron sends in another $4.99 and says, it's the part where they are going through all the different shots. Looks like they used the scene where Tommy is looking out and sees him carrying Annie. You mean the shot across? Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I'll have to go and have a look at that again. It's what it is. The reason for that is because it's the same reason why when they get to the shot of the living room and of the Doyle house, you see the butcher knife lying on the ground when really that was taken upstairs. That knife should not be there, right? That's an insert shot that was later put in post. Tommy Lee Wallace talks about how they just grabbed frames from certain scenes, that because you always roll camera before you say action, right? You'll sound is rolled first, right? And then camera is rolled, and then in comes, the slate board. And then there's a few moments of, waiting perhaps. Okay, settle, everybody ready, and action. Now it's easier to wait a bit longer than it is, now when you're shooting digitally, although you still have to be mindful because obviously if you're shooting 4K or 8K or, whatever it is, they can take up a lot of room on these cards. But certainly back in the day when you're shooting film, you had to be very mindful of how much film you were wasting. But what those shots are, so when the original Halloween ends and it cuts to, a still shot of the stairs, a still shot of the living room, a still shot of, the Doyle house, a still shot of, those were not insert shots that were shot. Those were taken from moments just before they said action or moments. I stand correct. I don't know about all of them, but a few of them were like, looking at the Myers house, looking at the stairs, all that. I'm pretty sure that Tommy Lee Wallace said that. And so they just took 5 seconds before they said action, or if they had rolled it 5 seconds longer, you would have seen an actor walk into frame. It's that kind of thing, right? So they just took that little bit before anything began happening and they used it as moments of where Myers had been to show that, and you hear him breathing and, he's still out there. So that's why you probably see a little bit of that in that shot. I haven't paid that close attention to it. I'll have to I'll take a look after this is done and see if I see what you're saying. And if I agree. But I will say that the knife is lying there by the couch. And some people said, oh, that's a mistake. It shouldn't be there. And it's like, yeah, technically it shouldn't be there, but it's there because it was taken from a scene much earlier. So that's why. All right. Have I got all the, hang on. No, hang on. We got a member chat comes in from Simon Mills, sends in a member chat and says, a member chat, not a member chat. Dave, I agree this film, the reason we got all the timelines. Weird how Halloween goes up and down like a yo-yo. The good H2, H4, H2O, the bad H5, Halloween Resurrection, H2, Rob Zombie. The problem is they got greedy and rushed it. Yeah, well, see, and it's all matter of opinion. Like, to me, I think H2O is not very good. I don't think H2O is very good at all. I've never thought H2O was good. I don't have the same emotional attachment to H2O that a lot of people do. And I've said this before, but it bears repeating. I was 19 when H2O came out. So I was already, I was almost 20. So for me, as a nearly 20-year-old, I had already seen Halloween and all the other Halloweens. For a lot of people, Halloween H2O was the first Halloween movie they ever watched. Or the first Halloween movie they saw in the movie theater. So for a lot of Halloween fans, it was the first, their first experience to Michael Myers on the big screen. It wasn't for me. My first Halloween in the movie theater was The Curse of Michael Myers. And of course, when I got into Halloween, there were only 3 Halloween movies, right? Halloween 1, 2, and 3. So there were quite a few years there where I was really into Halloween when there was no 4 or 5 or 6. So by the time I got to H2O, I looked at it through much more of a critical lens than maybe somebody who was just getting into it, who was just starting their horror journey because of the revitalization of the slasher subgenre in the late 90s, thanks to Scream. There were a lot of 9 and 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds, where I was in the mid 80s, they were there now in the mid 90s, right? So they were getting into Halloween and Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend and, The Faculty, all these sort of these late 90s, this resurgence, for a lot of Halloween fans, that was their introduction to horror. And so they have a real soft spot for H2O because it was their introduction to Halloween. And it was, like I said, the first Halloween movie they ever saw, or the first one they saw in the movie theater. So I understand why it's a fan favorite and why a lot of people really have a fond memory of that movie. And listen, I've made no secret about it. I saw it 3 times, but not because I loved it. I had to see it once, right? I saw it once with Bruce and my brother Neil. And then I saw it with my friend Brian, who wanted to see it. And I worked in a movie theater at the time, so I was able to get free tickets. So he wanted to see it, so I went with him. And it's Michael Myers on the big screen. I mean, no matter how bad a Michael Myers movie is, it's still Michael Myers on the big screen. So I went with him, so that was twice. And then because I worked at the movie theater, that was back in the day when the movie theaters, these Coliseum type stadiums, style, these big, Cineplex, movie theaters are really new, where you could go and you could get New York fries and Baskin Robbins and Taco Bell and Pizza Hut. You could get all these things at a movie theater. That was not a thing, when I was a kid in the 80s. It was just popcorn and, Coke. So it was really, it was really new. And they were open really late. And there was a real late show, and I worked late. I worked at New York Fries that year, and I worked late until 11 o'clock, 11:30. And my dad was finishing up something he was doing because he was, a journalist, and he was out doing something. He said, well, listen, son, I'm going to be a little bit late, but I can swing by and pick you up, but it's probably not going to be till 1 o'clock in the morning, and the movie theater is still open. Are you? And I said, that's okay. I'll just go catch a movie. And at that time, there wasn't really, I was like, I'll go watch Halloween H2O again because it's Michael Myers. So I went on my own and I just sat in the theater to kill an hour and a half waiting for my dad to come and pick me up. And that was my 3 times. But it wasn't because I was like, oh yeah, Halloween H2O. I've never really liked what they did with it. You know, I've said from the very beginning, it doesn't feel like Halloween. It doesn't look like Halloween. It looks like Michael Myers walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek. And there's reasons for that. And I don't like the eye holes being so big. I've never been a fan of the different masks and it just, you know, yes, Jamie Lee Curtis, sure. She had, you know, I get it. She's got this big redemption, but all the other things just don't make up. That one good thing with Laurie doesn't make up all the other things. But again, I was 19. Right? It was 1998. I was 19. So I was older and I had already gone through my, you know, kid phase of, you know, getting into horror. So it was, I was looking at H2O through the lens, a very critical lens, because I had just come from 5. I just come from 6. So I'm just like, okay, what the fuck is this shit? You know what I mean? So, you know, it's not an awful movie. I'm not saying it's one of the worst in the franchise. It's dated for me now. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? But it is better than Resurrection. That is true. Justin Leon says, sends in $5. Thanks, buddy. Says, what horror movie killer would be the best defenseman for the Buffalo Sabres? Asking for a friend. I would say, well, Jason Voorhees. He's got the hockey mask. Get out the hockey stick. There you go. Jason Voorhees, Justin. That's who I'm saying, my man. And thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Okay. Captain Casual sends in $2, says, I hope you're having a great day, Dave. I am. I hope you're having a great day as well. And then we got Lee the Machine Bowers, ladies and gentlemen, sends in a very generous super chat of $19.99. Thank you, Lee. One of our great channel members is here as well. Says, Dave, my man, I feel like Halloween 5 and 6 are the only ones with the thorn, because Halloween 4, he didn't have the thorn tattoo till age 5, and 2, flaws in H5, Michael's mask not tucked in, and the circus clown cops music. Very true, Lee. Very true. The thorn nonsense did not come in till Halloween 5. I know I didn't talk really about the thorn aspect of Halloween 5, but that's also because there really isn't a thorn aspect to Halloween 5, although we do see the tattoo on his wrist. Narratively speaking, it doesn't really move in that direction until Halloween 6. So, you know, you can call this the Thorn trilogy all you want, but anytime somebody says the Thorn trilogy, I kind of laugh because I think there's nothing Thorn about that trilogy except for Halloween 6. There's nothing in Halloween 4 that would lead you to believe that Halloween 6 is the end game. Nothing, zilch, zero, nada, you know? And so, but the reason they call it the Thorn trilogy is because, well, you know, it's the movie that has the explanation. It's the movie that tries to, you know, bring everything together. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, I get it, Lee. I get it. And yeah, the mask not tucked in, you really see it when he comes out of the closet. And the cops and the cornball cartoon circus music. Why? Like, I don't understand. Like, it's such a pivot, you know? This is where they needed somebody who cared about they needed somebody to say, no, you can't do that. It doesn't, why are we pivoting tone? It just doesn't, you can't do that. They should not have done that. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Ironically, I was not. Geeked Out Turtle Fan says, Dave watching Party of 5 in the 90s. Ironically, I have only seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes of Party of 5. Party of 5 is not where I first learned about Jennifer Love Hewitt. I know why you said that. Party of 5 was not as, I mean, you know, it wasn't, well, yeah, it was fairly big, you know. Jennifer Love Hewitt, of course, that's where Neve Campbell came from. Jennifer Love Hewitt, that was sort of their big breaks. But Party of Five, I never really watched. I know what the premise is, and it was big, but I didn't watch it. And it's not where I discovered Jennifer Love Hewitt. Where I discovered Jennifer Love Hewitt, I was a little late to the game, was in, well, maybe not late to the game, but not Party of Five, was in the first I Know What You Did Last Summer. And I remember Bruce and I went to see that in the movie theater. And I've always been partial to brunettes. Not that there's anything wrong with blondes. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with blondes, but you know how you have your preferences, right? You just, what you're automatically, naturally attracted to. You know, you put 5 blondes and 1 brunette in a room and I'll notice the brunette first. But there's nothing wrong with blondes. We love you blondes. You're amazing. But I am partial to brunettes. And what's funny is when I don't know, I didn't pick it up on the poster, but when the movie started and Jennifer Love Hewitt, I don't know what her first scene is, but when she's first introduced, I think it's at the beginning when she's on the, when it's the beginning, I think Sarah Michelle Gellar's character it's the pageant, right? And they're up and kind of in the loft area, whatever. And as soon as I saw her, I remember being in the theater being like, and what do we have here? I was like, who is this goddess? Of course, you know, I'm 18 years old, right? We're the same. Actually, we're the same age. She just turned 45 in February. I turned 45 in May. I know a lot about Jennifer Love Hewitt. I have a good memory, and she was my celebrity crush way back in the day. And I'd never seen her before. And I was like, holy snap and crap, who's this babe? And then of course the movie goes on and I'm just like, I just was so fixated. I'm just like, I was like, oh my God, she's hot, you know? And, but look, she had that, Jennifer Love Hewitt had everything going for her. I mean, not only was she brunette, of course, obviously, you know, I hone in on, you know, that, but the fact that she had that bubbly girl next door, you know, doing a toothbrush Crest commercial kind of girl. Like, have you ever noticed that the girls that do the Crest commercials are always like cute girls that look like they're girl next doors? That is the case with, not that she's ever done a Crest ad. I just mean that she had that look, right? And I am always partial to that. I've never been a fan of like real dolled up, high maintenance women. I'm not particularly attracted to that. I'm very much a girl next door kind of guy. I always have been, whether you're a brunette or a blonde, it doesn't matter. Like I said, it's not that I don't think blondes can be attractive. It's just, I will always hone in on brunettes because of, you know, our preferences, right? We all have preferences, right? And so, I just remember thinking, wow, she's so attractive. And of course, back then searching the internet was in its relative infancy. So I remember going on Yahoo and you know, Netscape and searching Jennifer Love Hewitt photos, and they were so archaic and poor quality. And I'd print some to put on my wall, you know, as a teenager, you know, and the printer's like, and it'd print this real shitty fucking quality. I was into her, man. I was really into her. But I never watched Party of Five. Do you want to know why I think I never watched Party of Five? Because she wasn't the star of the show. I think if she had been Neve Campbell's character, where she was in every episode and she owned the show, then yeah, I probably would have got into it. But because she wasn't in every episode and she was basically Scott Wolf's girlfriend, and she was there, it's not like she wasn't there, but she was a supporting, you know, character. I think that's probably why I didn't. But yeah, I was into her. I mean, she's still beautiful. I mean, she's married now with a bunch of kids, but she still looks good. I mean, you know, we all age, of course, don't we? But she looks good. She looks good. She's aging very well, for sure. She still looks great. And, but yeah, there was a period of about 4 or 5 years there where I was really into her. I had her calendar on the wall and everything. And yep. But very fun. Very fun. And crazy, we both, our mothers were both named Patricia, and our mothers both passed away. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy stuff. I think my mom passed away before her mom did, but I think it was both from cancer, if I'm not mistaken. That's crazy. In another life. Oh yeah, BB Haunted Basement says, "Hey Dave, how about Jennifer Love in Heartbreakers?" Yeah, I saw that. That came out when I was in college. That's with Sigourney Weaver, and I remember I did go see that at the local mall near my college. I went and saw that with a bunch of people from residence. We all went and saw Heartbreakers. And obviously, there was only one reason why I was going. And yeah, she does look great in that movie. There's no doubt about it. Yep, Heartbreakers. I think I have that movie on VHS. I think I bought it. I don't think I've watched it since I saw it in the theater. I really don't, but I had it. I also bought, because she could, I wouldn't really say she's a singer, but she can sing. And she did put out a couple of CDs. And there was there was an album she put out in the, I want to say like 94, 95, somewhere in there. She put out an album. I still have the CD. And I think I know where it is too. She put out an album. She was young. She was like, I want to say maybe, don't quote me. She was maybe like 16, 17. And of course, because we're the same age, I was allowed to think she was hot because we're the same age, right? And I remember it was so funny. You can't make this up. The title of the CD was a track from the album, but the title of the album was the name of a track. It was called Let's Go Bang. I'm not making that up. It's called Let's Go Bang. And of course, as a 16-year-old kid, or I guess I would have been like 17 or 18. I was like, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. And I bought the CD. I had to order it. I remember having to order it. You know, it was very archaic back in the day. And, but it came and I have it. I still have it. I don't have a CD player to play it, but I still have it. And I did buy her 2002 album too, called Bare Naked. I did buy it. And she's actually an all right singer. She's all right. I mean, she's not like phenomenal, but she's all right. Like she can sing. She can hold the tune. She definitely can sing. But yeah, no, look, I've told this before, but in my second year of college, so I went home for Christmas. My dad, under the Christmas tree. So this is December 2000. Okay, so this is 24 years ago, almost 24 years ago. Under the Christmas tree, there was this shape of what looked like an album, like a old, LP, record. I open it up. It's a Jennifer Love Hewitt calendar for the year 2001. I'm like, oh, it's amazing, Dad. Thanks. And because my dad knew. And then there's my buddies, Brian and Evan, who I went to high school with. They come over Christmas night or the next day or something. They knock at the door. I open the door and there they are with the same LP looking thing. I open it up. It's the same calendar. So there's two calendars now. I go back to college. One of my friends shows up at my dorm room door, like I'm in college, shows up at my dorm room door, knock on the door. I open it up and they hand me, it looks like another Christmas present LP. And I'm like, no. I open it up. It's the same Jennifer Love Hewitt calendar. I have 3 of the same Jennifer Love Hewitt calendars, but it didn't stop there. There was somebody else in residence that gave me the same calendar. I had 4, count them, 4 of the same calendars. And then did I put them all up in my room? No, but I did put 2 up. I did put 2 up. But I remember thinking, what? Like, I mean, I think she's hot and she's a celebrity and I have her, I'm not like, I don't talk about her all the time. How did you, I don't know. I think it's because I'm very difficult to buy for because I don't have a lot of hobbies. You know what I mean? It's not like I play golf or, I used to play hockey. I was a hockey player for 13 years, but that was a long time ago. That was when I was a teenager, and I don't really, I'd love to get back into playing hockey again. I really would. I know I'm 45 and obviously I'd, have to play in like a men's league and just, for fun, but I would love to get back to playing because I was a very good hockey player. And I think I could still compete. But outside, like I don't have a lot of hobbies other than, movies and my work and things like that. But my dad was like that too. So I think in a general sense, I'm difficult to buy for. So I think just people were like, oh, Jennifer Love Hewitt. Like they just knew, oh, Dave thinks she's hot. Here's a Jennifer Love Hewitt calendar. Let's buy it for him. And I think that's really, at the end of the day, why I ended up with 4 of them. Because it was just easy. It's like my dad and Elvis. My dad used to say, fuck, I'm sick and tired of getting Elvis gifts. But it's because my dad was difficult to buy for. Oh, my dad was difficult to buy for. And so when all else fails, hey, there's the Elvis calendar, or there's the Elvis, book or something. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably why. But anyway, we'll get off Jennifer Love Hewitt here. Lee the Machine Bowers sends in another $19.99. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate that. Says, Halloween 4 and 6 have the perfect atmosphere. Wish Halloween 5 did it. Didn't feel like the fall and the whole unmasking and man bun. I'm like, damn, Michael's hair grew back faster after being burned to death. Yeah, he did kind of the man bun thing. And Uncle, see, it was a disaster. But like I said, the marketing of Halloween 5, see the top, see right here, folks? Right here, Michael Myers is finally unmasked. But he was unmasked in the original. And you actually saw his face in the original. You don't see anything here but a tear. And again, this is not a knock, folks. I mean this. This is not a knock on Don Shanks or Danielle Harris or Ellie Cornell. It's not a knock. It's just I don't agree with the creative direction that Halloween 5 went in. And so I do like to bust its balls. I just don't agree with what they did. But I'm not the only one who doesn't agree with it, because when you watch the Halloween, 5 documentary, even those making the movie didn't agree with it. So, had some issues with it. So I'm in good company there. All right. Oh, hang on a sec. Another super chat from Lee the Machine Bowers. Lee going hard in the paint says, the juice is loose. Nice freaking model. Honk, honk. Hi. Cheers, my friend. Have a good night. Thank you, Lee. Really appreciate you supporting the channel in the ways that you do. And yeah, you're just awesome, man. Thank you for the super chats tonight. And that's right. The juice is loose. Not talking about OJ. I mean, he's loose too, but no, they're talking about Beetlejuice. That's right. The teaser trailer for Beetlejuice dropped and it was good. I enjoyed it. The epitome of a teaser trailer, folks. I miss when teaser trailers were like that. That's what a teaser trailer should be, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it should be. All right, we'll take this thing to 2 hours. So about another 10 to 13 minutes left in the show. Take this thing to 2 hours. Let me see. Wolfman's got nards. What's going on, Barry? My man, Barry says, I played roller hockey with my Colorado Avalanche starter jersey. That's amazing. That's really cool. I've never played roller hockey, obviously on rollerblades. I played ice hockey for 13 years. And then as a typical Canadian thing, we would just play what we would call street hockey. Or road hockey. We'd call it road hockey, but you're just out on the street, in your shoes and having fun. And we did play that, but I miss it. I miss playing hockey. I was good. I was a good hockey player. I miss playing. It's expensive though. It's so expensive. Like to play shinny hockey, to just go out to an outdoor rink with your skates and your stick. I could do that. I've never really looked into it seriously enough in this area to find, but I'd love to play. I do miss playing hockey. And like I said, I know I'll be 45 this year, but I'm in good shape. I run 5 kilometers 3 days a week. I'm in good shape. I mean, I'm not like I'm keeling over. So I think I would do well. But Yeah, it'd be fun to get back out there. But roller hockey, that's fun. Sarah Carter says, yes, do it. So fun. Yes, Sarah. I should. I got to get back out there. Let's go Buffalo. Going to miss the playoffs again for like the 14th year in a row. God, the Sabres suck. Fuck, man. The Buffalo Sabres have not made the playoffs since 2011 or 12. It's disgusting. They're pieces of shit. They're crap. They suck. Let me see. Okay. Have I got all the super chats and member chats, folks? I just want to make sure I've got everything and I'm not missing anything. I want to make sure. Lee the Machine Bowers. Hang on a sec. Brandon Collins, $2. I miss Brandon Collins. He says we should call it the Salt Lake trilogy, really. Yes. That's, yes. I hear that. Hear to that. I think you're right. That's what it should be called. The Salt Lake trilogy. Captain Casual. Hope you're having a good day. Got that one. Okay. It looks like I've got all the super chats. I do. Just want to make sure. Dominic Orthenian Gerard. He is, how old is he now? He's born 1958. So he was 31 when he directed Halloween 5. All right. Let's see here. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, thanks for the stream. You're welcome, Chester. Whose idea was it to not put the whole title in the opening credits for Halloween 5? Of Halloween 5, the first 3 Halloween movies had their whole title in the opening, but why not Halloween 5? Well, Chester, I don't know for certain, but I can take an educated guess and say that because the title The Revenge of Michael Myers was not something that was ever thought of until they started marketing the movie. So Halloween 4 was, written as Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Whereas Halloween 5 was not. I don't think there was ever a subtitle. But when it came to marketing, they used The Revenge of Michael Myers. This time they're ready. Remember that thing? He says that on here. Yeah, there it is right down there. Michael lives, and this time they're ready. The Revenge of Michael Myers. It was used in all the promotional material, but when they were shooting the movie, something would be interesting. That's a question. That's a new question that I wish people would ask these actors when they get to panels. That doesn't mean that Danielle would remember. But somebody like Malek Akkad, mind you, Malek Akkad was very young. He was only like 20. I don't even know if he had a part in the making of that movie, but I want to know, was it called that, or was there, look, because it does not appear in the opening credits, it is likely that the movie was just not called that. And then through marketing, they began marketing it as The Revenge of Michael Myers, and that's why you see it, but you don't see it in the actual film. That's the simplest, most logical explanation, based on how these things usually go. Aaron Click says, Dave, if Final Guys was the predominant trope in the 80s slashers instead of Final Girls, what do you think of the domino effect would have been, in your opinion? That's a good question. I don't know if Final Guys would have lasted very long. I think one of the reasons why Final Guy hasn't really manifested into something is because even when an audience doesn't realize this consciously, there is a lack of vulnerability that takes place when you have a Final Guy. Because you are a man, you're bigger, you're stronger biologically, and you are going up against, a supernatural force. Even if that supernatural force is stronger than you, there is a lack of emotional vulnerability with a man. And so you don't necessarily feel the same insecurities. Not insecurities. The same. Just say it again. The same vulnerability that you feel vicariously through the female actor as you do the male actor. And I think that's largely why it is women that are being chased by men, because there is a power imbalance, not just with supernatural abilities, but also physical abilities, right? I mean, really at the end of the day, you know, if you know, yeah, that's ultimately why I think. So if you were to have final guys, I just don't think it would have, I think ultimately, naturally, you would have written more final, like I think what would have happened was you start to write final guys, and I think just the natural evolution of the trope, you would have found girls sneaking in there more and more anyway, because they're smaller physically in stature. And I think it is easier to believe, you know, I mean, a damsel in distress, right? I mean, there's reasons for this, right? And that's not to say that there are not women that can't kick ass, and that there are not strong women with masculine tropes in terms of abilities. I'm not saying that. I'm speaking generally speaking. Generally speaking, men are far superior in strength than women, generally speaking. And so it is far easier to believe that women, especially young teenage girls, are in very vulnerable situations rather than the 6'2" football jock. So I think it would have just naturally, you know, found a way. I don't think it would have lasted. I really don't. When you look at Jesse from Elm Street 2, which is often seen as a final guy, and he is a final guy, but Jesse is very effeminate, right? Because Mark Patton, the actor, is gay in real life, and that doesn't mean that every man who is gay has feminine qualities or feminine aura about them. No, there's a lot of very masculine men that you could meet and they're gay. But there is that about some men who are gay, have a softer, more feminine sort of, you know, aura about them. And Mark Patton is that. And he was like that then. Of course, he was in the closet then because it was not a thing to come out of the closet in the 80s. So even though he is a final guy, because he has these feminine qualities about his personality, about the way he screams, about the way he speaks and talks and handles himself. He's not a manly man, right? And so I think that's also why it was able to work in a lot of ways. You know, I don't think you could have a bunch of horror movies with final guys like Grady, for example, right? He was too masculine, you know. Now with Freddy, it's a bit different because Freddy, it doesn't matter how masculine you are really at the end of the day. You can be, you know, Goldberg and it wouldn't matter because Freddy gets you in your dreams in a very vulnerable place. That's why, you know, it's one of the things about Freddy that is so fascinating is that he gets you where no matter how big or strong you are, you're all vulnerable there. Unless you could lucid dream and utilize the powers that they did in Dream Warriors. But anyway, so yeah, no, I think it's a great question, but ultimately I don't think it would. Sarah says foot and mouth, Dave. I don't think so at all. I think it's again, you know, I'm speaking generally, right? Speaking generally. And so I think it's important to remember that, and that I don't think it would have worked in the same ways. There are reasons why women are usually chosen as the final girls. And one of those reasons is because physically they are more vulnerable in situations of distress. And that therefore in the storytelling adds suspense and urgency and vulnerability and, you know, edge of your seat. Oh, oh my God. Now it's always great when they fight back, of course, that's awesome. But I think that vulnerability and that sense of power, that power difference in the dynamic, it helps to create better suspense and intrigue with it. And it's just a fact of where the direction of that trope went. But that's not new to the 80s. I mean, that's, it wasn't called Final Girl until that book. What was it called? The book was Slashers, something in Chainsaws or something like that. It was a book written in the early 90s where the term Final Girl was first coined. And, but, you can look back on some of the old sort of 50s, 60s horror films. And if you want, you can kind of go, oh, they're kind of a final girl. And why is it always the female that's in distress? Well, there's reasons for that, right? But I think it would have always naturally veered that way. Ryan Oshlow says, I can't live without you because my souls would die. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that means, but all right. Reese Wilson says, I watched Love Lies Bleeding last week. Make the bodybuilder actress in that movie a final girl in a slasher, and the killer would be wetting their pants. Yo, God, some of those women bodybuilders are huge. They're huge. Yeah, they're huge. Bodybuilding is, it's pretty huge. The thing with bodybuilders, though, is that they're incredibly strong, but their cardio is not usually very good. Again, generally speaking. Robert Nickerson sends in $4.99 and says, when hearing voiceover, do you find yourself thinking about the man behind the curtain, and how would you approach the job, or can you separate yourself? No, I never really, I mean, there's certain things about voiceover when I hear a commercial or that I will pick up on. But it's not usually that. I don't usually think about it that deeply. I don't usually hear a voiceover, whether it's on a commercial or a movie trailer or, whatever, and think that I could have done it better. There have been auditions that I've done in my life throughout the years where I have totally believed I've nailed the audition, and then I don't get it. And then I hear the commercial on the radio, or I see the commercial on TV, and I hear it and I go, oh, that's not even, like, I don't even believe, like, I think my audition was 10 times better. So that has happened. But in the course of, through casting, what sometimes can happen, especially in voiceover, is there's a saying in voiceover where, casting directors don't really know what they want until they hear it. It's not entirely true, but it's this thing, because a lot can change between the audition breakdown and once you kind of get into the studio. There's lots of times that, an audition can come into a casting director, and there's an audition that comes in and there's something that they didn't even think, like they interpret the direction or the script in a way that the casting director or the the ad agency didn't even think of. And like, oh my God, that's amazing. We didn't even think to do that, whatever the case is. And so suddenly the creative, direction can change because of the inspiration from the audition from, a certain actor. That can sometimes happen. But very rarely do I listen. Like, I'm not analyzing every commercial. I can hear ads on the radio, ads on the TV, and I'm just, they're just ads on the TV. They're just ads on the radio. I can separate myself from the work. Now, I do know how the magic is done, and I do know what voiceover auditions are like and voiceover sessions are like, and, dealing with ad agencies and studios and production companies and casting directors and actors. And so I do know the magic behind the curtain. Yes, for sure. But I'm pretty good at separating myself, unless there's something that comes up. See, it's like movies, right? Because I know how movies are made, and I've made a couple myself, but I can watch movies and I'm not constantly analyzing the process. Something has to happen within the movie that makes me sort of go there. Do you know what I mean? But I can dip in both. Like I can dip in both. I can enjoy a movie as a fan and take it as is, complete entertainment. You know what I mean? And I can analyze it as well from a filmmaking perspective. But the two don't I don't have any problem separating the two. Thankfully. And the same can be said with voiceover as well. Julian Salgado sends in $5. Thank you very much. Says, Dave, can you give a shout out to my girl, Elva Contreras, and let her know how lucky she is to have me. Cheers from California. Elva, I think I'm saying that right. Elva Contreras. Am I saying that right? Elva, listen, you are so lucky to have this man as your man. He is the epitome of masculinity. He was voted sexiest man in California 14 times in a row. Now, I know he hasn't told you this, but he was waiting for me to tell you that he was the sexiest man in California, and he is the sexiest man in not just Southern California, all Northern California, the middle of California, San Francisco, San Jose, San Diego, Los Angeles, Anaheim. It doesn't matter. He is the sexiest son of a bitch. And you were very lucky to have him. And also, he is very lucky to have you. There you go, my man. There you go. There you go. All right, folks, listen, that is a good spot to end it right there. That's a good spot to end it right there. Folks, listen, I want to thank you, each and every one of you who tuned into the show today. I really appreciate it. Remember, we don't always have to agree. And if you like Halloween 5, listen, if you like Halloween 5, jump into the comment section and let us know what you love about it, what you like about it. And I truly think that's awesome. And, I think it's amazing. So share your thoughts. And if you don't like 5, jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. This was a lot of fun, but, again, I like to go to the extreme. Have some fun. It's all in good fun, of course. But happy 35th anniversary to Halloween 5. Definitely a controversial installment in the Halloween franchise. There's no doubt about it. Happy 35th anniversary to Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. And yeah, fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came. Oh, I missed a super chat. Lee the Machine Bauer says I missed his super chat. Let me see here, Lee. I didn't realize you sent in another one. I thought I got them all. Lee sends in another $9.99. Thank you, Lee. And says both Beetlejuice and Alien Romulus teaser trailers are amazing. They didn't give a lot away. Have you heard about Adam Sandler working on Happy Gilmore 2 and it's going to Netflix? All of the above, I agree. Absolutely, two fantastic teaser trailers. Alien Romulus was fantastic. I absolutely agree. And yes, I have heard about this Happy Gilmore 2. I don't know, man. I'm not expecting much. It's difficult to do comedies years later. It's difficult, especially when you're starting to look old. Oh, Lee, you said in a super chat, says you missed super chat. I got it, my man. I got it. Thank you so much, Lee, for supporting the channel again in all the ways that you do. I really appreciate it. And it means a lot. It means a lot. But yeah, thank you, of course, to my great moderators, Frank Riker, Tab of the Short, Darren Sands, Chris Baber, Cody Snyder, and Andrew Stevens. Thank you for doing what you do. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came in today. Thank you to my members as well. If you want to become a member here for exclusive access to certain shows on my channel, just hit that join button and join away. Would really, really appreciate it. And thank you for everybody who tuned in. And yeah, just jump into the comment section and let me know your thoughts on Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, celebrating 35 years this year. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody. Stay safe out there. And I will be back very soon with another episode of something. It'll be something. All right, folks. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.